like second or third day into the trip. Well, anyways, on my schedule, there was like a podcast appearance. Okay, like they had me going to a podcast appearance, and I was like, "What is this?" And Brian Coe, the other manager at EN Management, he's like, it's like, you just have to go, and they know that you're a Marvel fan, so they sort of want to talk to you about like Marvel stuff. And I'm like, oh, easy, okay. And then the night before I was supposed to go do this, I suddenly got a rare medical condition. Something happened to me. I got really sick. Okay. And I don't want to mention I don't want to name what I got. Okay. What happened to me. But it was because of stress, extreme stress and fatigue. I got a rare medical condition, and I couldn't sleep at all. Not even for a second. Okay. And I was basically just dying. So I stayed up all night. I'm like going crazy, and I need to go to the emergency room, but like we didn't have time because we had to go do this podcast. Okay, this podcast appearance, and I'm like, so they're gonna have me as a guest, and it's gonna be, just talking about Marvel. So I'll finish that and then go to the emergency room, right? So I'm like sick, tired. I'm like in the worst possible condition I can possibly be in, and Eddie here is like, dude, are you okay? I'm like, I feel so bad, but you need to go do this podcast appearance because it's like something huge that
millions of subscribers.
He worked really hard to get me on. Okay. So I'm like, okay. And then Eddie's like, I have to go do some other meeting, so I can't go with you. And I'm like, what? And he's like, he's got to meet with like Apple or something like that. I'm like, okay, go meet Apple. And then Brian Coe decides to drive me right to this podcast appearance. So I'm going, and I'm like I said, I am suffering from a medical condition that I wish to not name. Okay.
Yeah.
For the time being. Okay. But it was really bad. Okay. And I'm like dying in the car. I'm like, oh my God, I got to get through this. I got to get through this show. And then I just go to the back. I just go to the emergency room. And I'm like, Brian, so like, fill me in. Like, what do I have to do here? And Brian's like, well, I'm not really sure because Eddie did most of the communication. Eddie kind of set it up. So, but I think they know that you're like a Marvel fan, and they're just gonna like talk to you about like some of the recent Marvel stuff, like maybe like Endgame and stuff like that. So it's gonna be easy. And I'm like, okay, awesome. And I get there, and so this producer there greets me, and he's like, hey, and I go into this room, and there's this there's the podcast host, right? So I'm like, hey. And then other people start like coming into the room, right? Like 3 other podcasters. Like it was like 3 podcasters and me. And I quickly realized that I'm not a guest on this podcast. I am there to be one of the co-hosts. Okay? And the minute these guys walk into the room, they're talking about Star Wars, but like talking about like as if, if you had a PhD in Star Wars, okay, this is the level of conversation that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Like as they're walking in, they're like, what do you think about those scrolls in like some planet? And they're like talking like crazy, right? And then sometimes looking at me. And then I quickly realized that this is going to be a Star Wars related podcast with Star Wars like hardcore experts and fans as the hosts. And I'm supposed to be one of them. Okay. And I'm like, wait, what's going on here? And mind you, like I said, I haven't slept at all. Okay. So I'm like, out of my mind already.
Manic state.
And I'm like, what's going on here? And I'm like, what is this show called? And they're like, Rogue Theory. And I'm like, okay. And And then one of them asked me like, so what's your theory on like Baby Yoda? Okay. And I'm like, huh? I need to go to the bathroom. I'm really sorry. So I go to the bathroom. Brian Cole, my manager, is still in the room, right? I go to the bathroom and I text Brian. I'm like, Brian, what the fuck is going on? What do I do here? And Brian is like, these guys are hardcore, right? And Brian's like, dude, I think we are kind of screwed here. And I'm like, I am gonna fire Eddie. And then I text Eddie, and Eddie's just like, what's going on? I'm like, busy. Like, he's like, I'm in the middle of the meeting. He's like, what's going on here? And I'm like, Eddie, I am gonna kill you. Like, I am so screwed, dude. And he's like, don't worry about it, right? And I'm like, don't worry about what? And then he doesn't respond. I go back into the room, and they're like, we're gonna talk about Star Wars today, right? So we go to the studio now, and I'm sitting there, okay? And this is the best part, okay? I thought I was gonna be a guest on this thing, right? I thought it was gonna be like an interview show, right? About Tablo.
So did I.
Okay? So we get into the studio, we sit down, okay? We sit down, and at the beginning they're introducing the hosts, right? But it's like, so we have Eric Voss, the expert on like, Star Wars or whatever. And then we have rapper Tablo. And then that's it. they don't even explain the context of why I'm there.
What's going on with that thing is, of course, Eric Voss.
Hi.
Maud Garrett,
Hey.
join us back. And then also rapper slash podcaster Tablo.
Tablo.
Right? Like, because I was a guest host. But like, there's no context. Like, this is Tablo. He's a musician in Korea. And then we invited him because he likes, he's into like comic book stuff, right? None of that. It's just like rapper Tablo. And then immediately they're like, okay, guys, tell us your theory on why Baby Yoda, like, was it Baby Yoda?
Yeah,
or
this
something
was
like
the
that?
day after the first Mandalorian episode.
Yeah, and I'm going insane right now, and I'm sick. I'm like really tired, and I'm confused as to why I'm here. I'm like, how am I gonna even talk about this stuff? Because I'm not actually a big Star Wars guy. I'm not. I don't know why someone thought it was a good idea to put me in this. And I'm just like saying anything, right? I'm like, well, my theory is like, I have no idea what I'm saying even because I'm tired. And then it goes to the next person, and then they're like looking at me sometimes. I'm like, am I making any sense here? And I did this entire like 40-minute, 50-minute show confused out of my fucking mind, okay? As like, what the hell? And I honestly thought this is going to be the end of my career and also like the beginning of a new career as a Star Wars like expert, because it's so random that I'm on this thing, okay? And then the recording ends, and I'm headed to the emergency room, right? And I go to the emergency room. I get like my doctor, this doctor, like, you don't have insurance. It's going to cost you like tons of money. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm dying right now. And like, I'm basically like fighting with death at this point, and also wanting to kill Eddie. Okay. I'm like, oh my God, if this comes up on YouTube, I can just see what's going to happen on the comments. Like, they're going to be so confused, like why I'm there. Okay. And then this video does come up. Okay. One day it comes up, and it's on YouTube right now, but don't look for it right now. Let me finish the story and then go look for it. It's called Rogue Theory. Okay. And it's something about Mandalorian, right? And it comes up, and most of the comments are just talking about Star Wars, right? Because these are for hardcore fans. And then I guess someone noticed, someone knew it was me, and they're like,
Wait, what the hell is Tablo doing up on here?
and someone's like, and another comment was like,
Tablo? He's a huge A-lister in Korea. How did you guys get him?
And people are just confused as to why there's no context for me being there and I'm suddenly just off the cuff talking about Star Wars, right? And then so we watched this YouTube video together with Eddie and Eddie's wife. And Eddie's wife is like, okay,
She's laughing.
she's like really laughing. And she's like, oh, this is much worse than I imagined. Like, Eddie, you kind of, like, this is not on brand for Tablo. Like, this is not what you want Tablo doing, right? And here's the thing. Whole time, Eddie's like, since the shoot, Eddie has been explaining to me for days that, like, he didn't know, right? That even he didn't know. He thought he was going to be, like, having me on as a guest and, you know, because I like Marvel and, you know, they're going to talk about Marvel. He had no idea that it was going to be like this, like expert comic book thing where I had to be a co-host, right? But Brian discovers an email, okay, and shows it to me. They specifically asked Eddie, is Tablo a super nerd? Because we're going to be talking about some very, very nerdy stuff. And this is a very, very nerdy show. We just want to make sure that Tablo knows what's going to happen, right? Because is he into this nerdy stuff? And Eddie responded to that email, and we have proof. We have evidence. I saw it. He responds to that email. I can for sure guarantee that Tablo is the nerdiest person I have ever known.
Well, it was something. It was.
I can concur that
Yeah, it was. Tablo is as
the
nerdy as it gets.
as it gets. You, oh my God. I mean, like, the show is great. Okay? I'm not like talking crap about the show.
Show's great.
Okay? That YouTube channel is great. It's got great subscribers. It's got, you know, great fans. But me in that show? Why? It just makes no sense. Anyways, this is why Eddie's the greatest manager and also the worst manager ever. You loved this clip, didn't you? Go listen to the whole episode on any podcast platform. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications on this channel so you never miss a thing.